Really? Just kidding, I loved it. Exactly, which is like a web video thing. You probably knew that because you're watching this on YouTube. Doctor Who Exactly is where I try to unprofessionally criticize and dissect an episode of Doctor Who in video log format form, as, you know, best as I can. 6th episode of series 11 of Doctor Who. I can't believe this has already been going on for 11 years. It's been going on longer than that, but it's been going on for 11 series at least. Episode 6 of series 11 of Doctor Who since the relaunch in 2005 has been written by Vinay Patel, and it's probably my favourite episode of the bunch so far. I am being absolutely 100% sincere about this. Rosa is very good. Rosa is, you know, terrific. The Woman Who Fell to Earth is brilliant. It's like the best series opener since the 11th Hour, starring Matt Smith. Demons of the Punjab, on the other hand, is something different. Okay, so we have to, you know, approach this step by step. So Doctor Who, when it was first conceived, it was like meant to be like an educational show. I'm not quite sure how many of you might know that. It was meant to be like partly adventure, partly, you know, like teaching the little tiddlywinks, the little kids, about history and things and sciences. And it wasn't really until, you know, once it really got really popular with its second serial, like the amount of episodes containing one single story, being about, well, you know, the Daleks. That it kind of took on a little bit more sci-fi than it did being a bunch of adventures through time and space, with the emphasis about time. The thing is that until about like somewhere the second Doctor's adventures, the Doctor still had a lot of like legitimate adventures in just, you know, time, in historical periods, without anything like alien menaces or like secret government sci-fi abilities that didn't make any sense to be there in that time frame, but I digress. That's disregarding the 5th Doctor adventure, you know, the Curse of the Black Lotus, or something black, something Dahlia. It's black, it's a flower, and they played cricket. It's 2 episodes. Horrible names. I'm usually pretty good with names of episodes, but not names of people, so I feel doubly ashamed. Right, so, slight rant over. What I meant to say by that is that Series 11 seems to have taken a little bit of a step back towards the, you know, the historical classic. Whereas, you know, previous New Who episodes would always be, like, if we are set in the past, there's always aliens. Like William Shakespeare, aliens that look like witches. Charles Dickens, aliens that look like ghosts. Agatha Christie, alien that looks like a giant wasp. Things like that. So we had 2 historical episodes this series, and in the first, Rosa, which I mentioned previously, the villain was a bad guy from the future. So there was like literally no alien presence in that episode aside from the Doctor and her TARDIS and her sonic screwdriver and, you know, everything else he brought to the table. And the guy was a human, presumably human, or, you know, a very human alien at the very least. So that's probably a little bit more historical than this. But this episode, I took a long time to get here today, didn't I? This episode, The Demons of the Punjab, it features aliens, but the aliens aren't the focus of the story. The focus of the story is about the historical conflict between the separation of borders between Pakistan and India. And I must admit, I've had a decent education. I'm not going to say it's going to be the highest level. Like, I couldn't probably translate like what my levels were into American English, English, because I did them all in Dutch, because I'm a Dutch person on the internet. The thing is, like, I've had a decent education, and I like to think I'm pretty clever because I passed all of my middle school, high school stuff without studying. Basically, I'm a lazy bastard. That's how I became complacent and failed for the rest of my life. What I meant to say is that I know quite a decent lot about history. I kind of missed the stuff about India and Pakistan borders. I think they probably didn't cover it in the history classes I took, or I wasn't paying attention. It's probably the former, because histories are very often focused on the country itself. I am still taking quite some time to get to the actual episode, I do apologise. So I personally didn't know much about the separation of the borders between India and Pakistan. Watching this episode, I learned quite a lot, and I learned that it was quite bad. And, you know, it made me think of the First Doctor. The First Doctor had like episodes like the Massacre of St. Bartholomew's Eve, and again, I must admit, I don't know quite so much about that historical event. But what I do know, I know because of a black and white science fiction show from the 60s. That's pretty crazy. And here's the thing, there's nothing bad about learning about history and, you know, social hang-ups and everything else. There's no shame in learning about our society through a pop culture thing. No shame whatsoever. If you learn any way you can, do it. I can't begin to describe the amount of stuff I've learned watching cartoons and television shows. There's data out there. If the data is out there and you can consume it and you retain the knowledge, that makes you more clever. That's good. You do that. That's what these things are for. Wow, I'm really taking my time getting to my points today. Can you tell that I like this episode? Right, so the Demons of Punjab. What can I say? It has a lot of little details that I love, and I'm probably gonna miss a lot of them. So we're gonna try in record speed, seeing as I've taken some time today to address Graham's little speech to Jazz about how her nan is not yet her nan, because they're in the past in 1947, sorry. It was brilliant. It's like, that's a clever take. Like, you know a person, but seeing as you've travelled back into the time, they are not the person you know. That's a good take, and I haven't, you know, it's obvious in hindsight, but it's like, it takes someone to point it out for you to realise. Speaking about Jazz, I'm very happy that Jazz has got an episode of her own, because we already know quite a lot about Ryan, and, you know, I like Graham. Graham's pretty good. But Jazz has always felt like she was sidelined most of the time during this series. Like, she was a little bit a part of Rosa, I suppose, but never really quite as important as she is here. Demons of Punjab puts her in the spotlight, and I really like Jazz now. I was indifferent about her before. I was like a 6 out of 10, like, she's okay, I can live with her, but I wouldn't write home about her. And now I'm like, okay, fine, this is great, I love Jazz. The Doctor has never been more doctory in this series until this episode. Like, this is peak Doctor. Her just going, like, a universe without Jazz. You're the most important thing, la 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 la, that's great. That's just brilliant. Her little speech at the wedding, fantastic. It just feels so sincere. Her using, like, the aliens' weapons, and then, you know, non-harmfully English very well. In a non-harming way, that's great. It's terrific. Ryan probably felt a little bit underused this episode, but like I said before, he's had plenty of time to do stuff in the past. Like, we know who Ryan is by now, but we didn't know who Jazz was by now, so that's okay. that's the problem with like 4 protagonists or one of them protagonists. At one point somebody's gonna have to be given a little bit less screen time. It's not bad for the story. The aliens, oh my god, the aliens, I forgot their names, but I love their designs, I love their aesthetics, it's great. And quite oddly, when they first arrived, they sound a little bit more menacing, and they address this in the episode. But towards the end, was I the only person thinking that they sounded, at least one of them, a little bit more feminine? Probably to indicate the change that the way they presented or were presented at the start until the end. Okay, so this story is basically all about humans, and the aliens are a part of it. But you know, it's a little bit like the deception, because you're thinking like, oh, these are some big bad aliens. But the real story is about the humans. It should always be about the humans in Doctor Who. The aliens should be the threat. Okay, maybe I'm just, I got that. That's a wrong take. Don't quote me on that. So we have a story about Pakistan and India in 1947 about war and how it changes people. And the strangest thing is that despite it being like I said before, a historical piece, to me it felt very relevant to nowadays as well. But seeing as the thing, Manish, the younger brother, he was radicalized at home into being a fanatic while his brother was overseas fighting a war. Or overseas, his brother was somewhere else. I say overseas because it's very white-centric to do. Do apologize for that. So Manish was radicalized by people on the radio, and that, I find that very similar to stuff that's happening nowadays. It's like people on the internet are very easily swayed by negative voices echoing danger all the time, propaganda in a form that's very easily undetectable for somebody who's not paying attention. So me thinking like, okay, so here's this lad, a young boy, when the war was going on, and he got turned into a bigger threat to his own people than the man who went to fight for his people. Despite the fact we often see, like in common fiction, that the man who goes to fight the war has post-traumatic stress disorder, and you can tell by the fact I'm a little bit less animated that I'm taking this a little bit more serious. You often see in media like people with war pasts, they get turned into psychos or serial killers, or they become the Punisher, things like that, and here this shows like the very real threat of stuff that's happening in our lives as well nowadays, and apparently something that's been with us for quite some time. If it makes sense, it does. I have no decent way to end this train of thought, so I'm just gonna kind of leave it at hanging, because I can't really close that up properly. I do apologise. I like to think I'm smart, but there's still smarter people out there. You can, please, this is a sincere request, if you have something to say about this, leave a comment and I'll try to engage you in a normal fashion. That took the wind out of my sails. I don't remember if I've got anything else good to say about this episode. It's terrific. Like I said, characters, aliens, plot, the score was great. Side characters as well, like the holy man at the beginning of the episode. You immediately get a connection with him. It's like, this Vinay Patel guy, this writer fella, he's pretty good. Maybe we should, try to get him back sometime in the future, write more episodes in, the next series of Doctor Who. I hope that's going to be a thing. So, yeah, like I said, I took my own wind out of my sails by becoming all serious. I do apologise for that. This has been quite a rambly, vlog, but I like to think that I've gotten most of the things that I liked across this time without going like, bugger, I forgot to mention this one thing. So, yeah, so seeing as I was being very sincere, let's just end sincerely as well. What do you think of the Demons of Punjab? Please, like I said, this time I'm asking for sincere engagement. What do you think about how this episode did everything? Leave a comment down below. Follow me on social medias, Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr, I've got all of them. I've got LinkedIn as well, but you don't need that. I've got an Instagram, but you know, all I do is take a boring picture of my face every day. So people go like what's wrong with you? Why are you taking that picture of your face every day? I have issues. Yeah. So do all the social media things, do all the YouTube things, and I hope to see you soon. This has been great. I love this episode. I love it. This is recommended viewing. 10 out of 10. 9 out of 10. I must lie because I gave it a 9 out of 10 on IMDb. By the way, IMDb gave this episode a 4.7 out of 10, and I checked that score like 10 minutes after it had aired. You can't tell me that 10 minutes after the episode has aired, so many people were ready to go to IMDb to give it such a low score that it got a 4.7 out of 10. I've got the feeling that IMDb is not a trusted source of, you know, getting to know the quality of a film, really, to be honest, because seeing as the fact. Yeah, never mind. See ya!